I can't. I don't hear myself. Get the volume up for me. Volume. Volume. Hello. Huh? Where's the mic? Shoot. Where's the mic? Where's the mic? Microphone. This is all I need. Usually I have the handheld. That's for the. Oh, that's right. Testing, testing. Ooh, that worked. All right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome back. Thank you for coming. Yes, Happy New Year. Hope you all had a great New Year, a good holiday, and we're ready to rock and roll again. Yes. Oh my gosh, building a native garden. Wow. So we have a good presenter tonight. She's excited to be here, so I'm excited for her too. I have clipboards here that I'm going to be passing around, and they are for Arbor Day, Pollinator Fair, and the Florida Friendly Landscaping. So I'll pass them around. Write your name in there. We need volunteers. Larry, I saw you eyeing them. So we are, oh, that's not mine. Can I have the first screen, John, please? No, no. So we are the Florida Native Plant Society Conradina chapter. And we meet here at the Nazarene Church. I don't have the address. I don't remember the address. My car just automatically brings me here on the second Monday of the month, so you have to figure it out. No, it's in our newsletter, the address. And it's right here on Babcock, so you can't miss it. Let's see, what else? We start at 6 o'clock. Actually, we start at 5:30 because we have refreshments. They were good tonight, right? Very nice. Thank you. Yeah, we do that every meeting. Um, also, oh, sorry. Okay. So here it is. Our meetings are on the second Monday of the month. And we start at 6 and 5:30. And there's the address, Babcock. Okay. Next slide, please. Our mission is CPR, I call it. I even cleared it with the president of FNPS. And she said it was okay to use that. And she really liked it because I can't remember all this. But I can remember conservation, preservation, and restoration. And that to me is CPR for the native plant environment. For that community, we need to work hard to bring it back. We need to bring it back to Florida. There's an awful lot of building around here. And I don't want to lose the community, the plant communities, the native plant communities that have been there for years. So tonight, so I already told you about the clipboards. Or anything else? Oh, we really, really need pots. Pots, because we are doing some serious growing in those homes. All kinds of native plants. We give them away. You know that we give them away every meeting. So you take home tonight. We're going to be doing a raffle, and we do it at every meeting throughout the year. I think we usually do it at every meeting. I think there's only one meeting we don't do it. But anyway, plastic pots. And so if you can bring them to the meetings, put them in a black trash bag or whatever. Don't bring us the snakes. You know, nothing dangerous in the bags. Make sure they're all clean. I appreciate it. I don't want my board or anybody getting hurt, and their part of the bargain is to open them up and use them. Okay, what else do we have? Let's see. Okay, so Carl, our past president, yes, ma'am, Martha. Where's Carol? Martha, did we put that in the newsletter? Uh, so Martha wants us to get in there right now and sign up because the slots are going fast. That's what I got out of it. Okay. Okay, and Martha said there's flyers on the back table there about it. Carol, are you presenting at that? Are you presenting at the in Gainesville? No? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So full of really fun. I might not need this, but I will take it. Thank you. So I encourage it. It should be information in our newsletter. And if you grab those tickets early, it's a little bit less. And it's not really that far away. So try to get that weekend off. Okay. So mainly, I thought she was having me stand up about the snacks. So, because I really appreciate everybody doing that. I want to highlight who brought what. Oops. All right. You guys enjoyed the snacks, huh? You were diving at them? Yay! Good, thank you. I can't, my hands are full right now. Joan was wonderful, brought popcorn and pretzels and cookies. Stuart and Leonard brought cool stuff with the black bear, beauty berry, beauty berry jam. Wasn't that delicious? Yeah. Eileen brought some dip and everybody has, here's Martha and she had chocolate. I don't know if she got here yet. I brought it in for her. Chocolate truffles and cookies and Linda's water and Zyger tea, and we have different drinks. Terry brought some too. Nancy brought some brownies, and I probably left somebody off because we had so much good food up there. So what I'm doing also is to pass another one of these around, and this will be for February 10th, and it's Catherine Booth and How to Protect the Lagoon by Organic Care of Native Trees. So I do have a couple of people signed up for already bringing in some snacks and one for beverages. So I'm going to hand this around, and I'd love for you guys to add your name. Sounds good? All right. Thank you. I'll have to do the clip back on you.
Yeah. Okay, we're doing a live feed if anybody, I don't know if you've kept up with that, but we are doing a live feed. That's what this is, this microphone here. This microphone is for you guys. This is for you. Yeah. Yeah, it's on YouTube. All of them are. They have been for about a year now, I think. Maybe even a little more. Jamie, how long have we had these live feeds? A year, right? Yeah, that's true. Okay. Okay, Carl is going to introduce Lisa, and then I'm going to come back on, and we're going to do raffle. Raffle time. Don't leave after Lisa, okay? Don't leave. You're going to want your plant. We grew these especially for you guys.
Okay, our speaker tonight is Lisa Ruckman. She has been kind enough to come down here. She's going to give a talk on how to convert your yard to natives and give us her insights and wisdom. So I'm going to leave it out and turn it over to Lisa.
Okay. Can you hear me? Oops, nope. Can we hear me now? All right. Okay, so I just your regular old homeowner that in 1990 moved to Phoenix and watched the neighbor stand out there every day with his hose trying to water his little golf grass, and it was 120 degrees. And I thought, this doesn't make sense. Ooh, okay, that's not good. So I started reading about native plants out there, and then had the second house that I purchased out there. I actually did the full front yard, 100% natives. And then when I moved to Florida, I thought, not a water problem in Florida, right? It's not a desert. Discovered we do have a water problem in Florida. And so I started learning about the native plants here and started gradually transitioning my yard in Orlando. And then when I moved out here to the coast, did the same thing. I'm probably preaching to the choir here for most of you, but one of the things I think people forget about when we're talking about all this stuff is the whole ecosystem, that whole circle of life thing. You know, if you close your eyes and you can picture like maybe a forest or something where you have the trees and the leaves fall into the ground, and you end up with the bugs on the ground, the worms that eat the leaves. Everything gets turned in. You got the mushrooms growing on the fallen tree branches, and eventually it works its way down into the soil, where we now know a lot more about the microorganisms that are under there. People forget that all those butterflies everybody wants, you have to allow the caterpillars to eat your plants. You have to allow them to eat your leaves on your plants in order, and to put little cocoons and things on your plants in order to have those butterflies. It's a cycle thing, and I think we somewhere along the line, probably decades ago, it gradually shifted that we think of our property as our little kingdom, and kings and queens used to have their little special gardens, and they bring in exotic plants from all over the world. Well, not every single one of us is doing that. We're all bringing in all these exotic plants to the point that most yards here in Florida don't have native plants. Sometimes they don't have a single native plant. And at least looking around, driving by it, generally it appears that at least 90% of the plants in the yards are not native. And that affects all those butterflies and all those bees and all of the plants and animals that lived here. So I want to start with that, of just, remembering that the water we drink, the air we breathe, all that stuff had a pretty good system, a balanced system for the most part, and we've just really wrenched out maybe 75% of that native thing, which to the point of now, we now know that there's just a huge loss of species, and the biodiversity of species in the world, especially we know for sure in the United States, has just really gotten to a pretty high level at this point. So let's see here. I think if we switch to the next slide. So I moved out here, and everybody talks about the lagoon. So I thought, well, let's work on, oops, well, that's my lagoon slide. Or is this the second slide? Okay, no, you're correct. You're correct. That was just further. I keep hearing my breath. It's driving me crazy. Further demonstration of the native wildlife. When I first started putting native plants in my yard, I noticed a few more bees, a few more butterflies. When I switched to about 75% of my front yard being all natives, I suddenly saw like 100 different types of insects that I'd never heard of before, never seen it before. You know, these bright green neon bees, aren't those really cool? And I just thought that was amazing. So there's thousands of insects that we depend upon. And there's just, we end up coming to this point of realizing that we really, really need to support these guys. We have to provide the plants that they need. We have to provide, we have to allow some of those insects to be on those plants and not be rushing out there to remove them right away. Okay, next one. So out here in the Lagoon area, this is a slide I got from the Southwest Water Management District, or sorry, not Southwest. St. John's, sorry, St. John's, and they're, this one's focused a lot on the river, which we do have, we do have here as well. We tend to focus more on the, on the lagoon side of things because it's such a trapped area and the water can't go anywhere. But everything that we put in our yard that can be carried by the water in one form or another ends up in our waterways. So that's a very important thing and something that we need to think about in regards to anything we put in our yard. And people see and talk about stuff that you put in your yard, or car waste or different things you can see being carried down the street after a heavy rain. You can see all the stuff floating and stuff going into the drains and whatnot. But people often forget about the fact that that water also carries those nutrients and those things, chemicals down through the yard, through the sand, down to the water table, which also then ends up in the lagoon. And I think that when it comes to things that you're spreading on or spraying on in your yard, that you got to think that it's not just what ends up on the hardscapes and washes off, but you also got to think about the stuff that's going down. It's not just affecting your property; it is affecting the lagoon as well. Okay. And I'm sure most of you have heard many times over about the nutrient pollution. Hopefully, you have. Our Indian River Lagoon Coalition is working really hard on that. So obviously, plant material breaks down, and things that on small numbers is good for us, the nutrients and everything, but in those high volumes of amounts where you're having water that may have in the past soaked into a yard, but now because there's a roof and a patio and everything there and a driveway and a street, water that would have soaked in, now it's higher volumes carrying all that down to the lagoon. And so you end up having these, good things that are like a fertilizer for plants in those high volumes of numbers is when we end up having those blooms and all those other problems in the lagoon. So I recommend to people, try to start with the natural things, the compost and the mulch. If there's something that's really out of balance, you can do the oils and soaks and different things. And of course, the Extension Office can give a lot of advice and information on that. And not everybody, unfortunately, has heard yet that there is supposed to be those buffers along the water bodies. And I have helped people put together a couple of native plant buffers, even when they're not willing to give up a huge chunk of grass in their backyard. I've talked them into at least that last buffer area. So, okay. How many people actually have somebody playing on all of the grass in their yard? Not too many people. There are, if you have small children, you have a play area, grandkids that come over or something, that's one thing. But most of the yards in my neighborhood, most of the front lot is just all grass, and it's just there for decorations. Functionally, it's not benefiting our ecosystem. It's not even benefiting the humans. So obviously saving time on mowing, saving time on, all the chemicals and stuff that they spray, the companies they have to pay to come in and do things, save money on all that sort of stuff. Choose plants that are suited to your particular soils, the drainage on your property, because it varies from yard to yard. And of course, sunlight, shade, wind tolerant, drought tolerant plants, and even consider salt tolerance. A lot of the people that I talk to in the groups that I go to, I guess it's just something people are looking at. What color is the flower? They're forgetting to think of, we're under hurricane watches all the time, and we have the rain is becoming less and less consistent in its patterns, and so you want to pick plants that are going to be able to tolerate that. And then also, if you are near any body of water that has salt in it, or some of the folks have the wells that are pulling up the well water, that oftentimes that has higher levels of salt in there as well. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So let's choose those areas. So it doesn't have to be a fancy graph. When I did my yard years ago, because I have an HOA, I knew I'd be presenting. I did the graph paper. Each square was I think it was a foot, and I did all the measurements. You don't have to go that fancy. You just need to get a general idea of what areas you use for different things. What plants do you currently have that you're probably going to keep around for a while, and where do people walk? Where do people use it? That sort of thing. And this is what I chose. At the time, I had two large palm trees that had grass pretty much right up to the trunk, which is not a good idea for any tree. And so I decided that was an easy way for me to cut out a bunch of grass. I had some areas closer down to the sidewalk where the grass was growing very poorly anyway, and it was an easy choice of where to start and remove some of the sod and put in the natives. Let's see here. So water runoff is something that we just touched on a bit as far as the lagoon goes, but I personally think that we should get to a point where we don't need an irrigation system. But for those who still have, a lawn or different things where they feel a need for it, number one, make sure it's aimed at the grass and the plants. The sidewalks don't need the water. People don't always realize that there are rules and regulations for watering. There are only certain days where you're allowed to water. Technically, you're supposed to have the rain sensors on your yard to make sure that you're not watering when it's raining. You can also just go in there and turn the switch off when it's a rainy week or a rainy season. And then things like concrete and like maybe your downspouts go. A lot of people have the downspout directed to go down out into the driveway, so it won't erode the dirt right there or something. But if it's running down the driveway, it's adding to that volume of pollution to the lagoon. So really, you want to find ways to redirect that into your yard, whether it be, you design something more specifically as catchment for rain, or just to figure out a way that the water can have a path to spread out and water your plants, because the driveway doesn't need any water. So when I first started, I had the like I said, the irrigation system I was still using on our property. And I did a little bit of research and found that there are, you may have seen these, that I had planted some new plants and I just wanted to give them a little extra help in the first few months or whatever of their life. And so I was able to get this little converter thing. The heads that you already have, you can convert it. And this one had 3 little tubes coming out of it, so that I could put the you know, the end of each of those tubes could go right to the base of the plant where I needed it to be in the area. A little while later, I discovered this brown tubing, which I now see all the time, which the standard stuff is just it just has like a little emitter, one of those little tiny emitters inside of it about every foot. And you can get adapter things to convert the heads that you already have on your sprinkler system. You can just, you know, unscrew a head, disconnect it. And then I created a few different places where I just did a loop of that stuff, the brown pipe, so that when it runs, it's just dripping a little bit and it allows the water to soak in to the plants and not, you know, spray into the air for evaporation or water areas of the ground where you don't want it watered. You just, you know, you want the water to go where it's needed and not be wasted. There's also, it's not so new now. Let's see, I guess it's about over a decade ago, I went looking for different options on my sprinkler heads because I was so annoyed when I first moved out here, and it pops up and it just kind of mists out, and a lot of it just gets evaporates, and you're not actually getting raindrops on the plants. And so I discovered it started off in California where they've been doing a lot of work on saving water for a long time. But so you can replace the tiny little part of the head that screws into the top. They call it rotary, which is confusing because there's also pop-up heads that are rotary that are a more forceful sort of sprinkler that, you know, for you doing lawns or whatnot. But there's these little heads that you can screw in the middle that they're also called rotary. And if you watch, they're kind of fun to watch. It just shoots out this little stream of water in a circle. It can be you can do it a quarter or a half or whatever, there's different options. But it's actually shooting out a little stream of water. And it's actually going and getting in, and much more of it that ends up again on the ground in the plant, not just floating into the ether. All right, let's see here. We can go back to my map of there we go. So again, I'm not a fancy artist, and so just the really basic. So on the left here, we have our driveway. In the middle, we have our metal roof. And the back there with the stripes is a friend had a yard that backed up to a canal. Can be the blue. And there wasn't, you know, there was a bit of a slope there, and so she terraced that area going down to the canal. And it had different native plants in there. And I thought that was such a grand idea of, again, it's a way to catch that water instead of just running off your property. When you have enough of a slope, you can actually do you know, actual kind of a formal terracing. But also in the front here, you can just do something simpler, like where that rectangle is or where the, I don't know, oblong circle thing is, that you can do areas where you can lower your, sometimes there's naturally some areas already that are a little bit lower and it catches the water, and you can modify it a little bit as far as putting plants that like more water there. And the areas that are higher and drier, you put, you know, the ones that prefer the dry, hot air. But you can choose where there's a little red dot sort of in the corner there. That's my little rain barrel. But I mean, you can figure out where is the water coming off your roof, where is the water tend to run down in your yard. Does it run off into the street? Does it, you know, run over and corner under the neighbor's fence or something? You know, you can again make a rough sketch, figure out where things are, and help to figure out what might be the best areas that need a little bit of modification. And it really doesn't have to be deep. So I have, where this long green thing is, for my home, I have between the sidewalk and the street, on a heavy rain, the water used to hit the ground and just run right onto the street. I wanted to water my plants. So I lowered the soil down just a few inches in the middle, you know, down like an inch next to the sidewalk and maybe 3 inches in the middle. filled it with the some mulch and stuff at first, though now it's all filled in. And it's just a little bit of a slope, just a little tiny bit of a shallow bowl. It doesn't have to be one of those grand, uh, um, rain gardens that you see on TV or whatever, but just a little bit. And I don't see water running. I don't see any water even in a heavy rain. I do not see water, rainwater coming out of there and running down the street anymore. Now it has time to sit there, and it gives it some time to actually soak in and filter through for the roots and whatnot. All right, you can go next. All right, so I'm not going to expect anybody to read this. I believe I got this. Oh, yeah, I got this off of the St. John's Water Management District website. But it's just kind of a reminder of when you're putting plants out there, rather than just color or flowers or a specific butterfly you're looking for, to try to kind of plan a little bit of where you're going to put something. What are your different types of plants? Are you going to have kind of a little mini forest in one area where you have your, your maybe a tree or two, depending on your space, maybe more than one tree. I have two relatively small trees because I have a small yard, but then I have, shorter shrubs underneath them, even shorter ones out from there, and then ground covers out from there. So you can kind of mimic nature a little bit, find out which sort of plants. Go in the forest or go out in on one of these trails and see what tends to grow together and how they fit together. And that can help guide you in what sort of things you might be choosing to put there. Also, if you have, like for me, on either side of my sidewalk where it's just hot and dry, and anything I would put there would just cook. That's my hot area. So along those areas, I have my wildflowers and ground covers that are more scrub or beach. Sunflower is my my favorite. When other things die, they'll just fill in for me. But they again, with trying to have those groupings of those systems of putting maybe the things that can do dry and do longer droughts, the things that prefer to have more water be really soaked. Those are the things I'm putting in those areas where I'm lowering the soil a little bit to catch, and so I know that any water that runs off is going to go in there, and they're going to get the biggest drink of water of all the things in my yard. You guys all know about shade and sun. There's actually even a book out there just on the shade plants, because sometimes it can be trickier. I wanted to remind everybody to double check what the mature size of the plant is going to be when it grows up. How many times do we see these trees and these, well, don't get me started on the African trees, but they turn into shrubs around here. But so many of the plants that would have this nice long full life if the person had only planted it 10 feet further from the house, or all these shrubs or things that they'll plant 1 foot from the house. They're just bing, 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 and then they need to paint the house, and then they got to cut them all down. And it's like, so if the thing is supposed to be about 3 feet wide at maturity, and you're putting it in front of the house, maybe measure 5 feet out from the house, and then go back a little bit, and also give it room to spread out a little bit too. I mean, you see when they do these a lot of the commercial plantings and things, and they're putting in all these new businesses, and they put these mully grasses every foot, and those guys each need at least a good 5 feet each, right, of spreading room. And if I guess I'll show another thing on this later, but I guess I just wanted to remind everybody, they should have big signs at those box stores, right? Read the sign. How big is this plant going to be able to be? How tall is it going to get? How wide is it going to get? What does it need? All right, next slide. So here's a good example. This is Craig from the Lagoon Coalition. He's got all this hardscape around his pool, water's, rain's not going to soak in there. So where all this water comes pouring off the edge of his pool patio, he put natives all along the edge, and clearly they're very happy. Okay, next. This is just a few rain barrel examples. Obviously you can get the ones that look like a clay pot. So again, if you're in an HOA or something and you need to have something that looks decorative, or then in the middle there's just the painted, just those food storage rain barrels that you can get relatively cheap, sometimes free, and you can paint it to match your house. And I got this years ago from, I believe this was California. I'm not sure, it might have been Newport, but I thought it was a pretty good statistic that by having that spot where the rain can collect, that 30% more of the rain is going to be watering your yard instead of the street. Next. This is my very first little garden I put in my yard here. There was a spot, kids were running over it, and it was next to the driveway and the sidewalk, and there was grass did not look really great, and so I put in the mullies. I was trying to find something that I knew relatively quickly would get big enough that it would be able to tell everybody, don't step on me. I didn't want to put flowers because I knew the kids would run them over. And so this is just about a year later between these two pictures. So it's just kind of an example of when you first put them in, they're really small and you have all this empty space around, but they will fill in, and they have mulched themselves ever since. I have never had to add mulch since. I never prune them or trim them. Once in a while I'll do a little bit of a combing if there's a lot of the dead ones. That's just, let them take care of themselves. They got their own mulch. Another one. Let's see here. I don't recall having this one on my slide. I thought I had a picture of flowers next. No? Okay, so here's another example of where, obviously the grass was not looking really great. I put in that other triangle on the other side there, put in the sunflower, which quickly filled in and even went over and covered up some more dead grass for me. I now actually have a fire bush there because, anyway, but there's, it was just kind of an easy thing of like where I had grass that was dying. The HOA wasn't too happy about that. I made one little tiny bed, one plant, done. All right, we got my mullies again. I will add that for all those bare areas, what I do now is because the weeds, weeds will pop in anytime you have a bare area. Even when you do the good 3 inches of mulch like they tell you to do, it's very helpful. But there are certain weeds that don't go through 6 inches of plastic on you. So those areas I do fill in with I'll do gaillardia or something else that's not necessarily a long-lived wildflower. I'll fill in those areas with something like that so that it helps to prevent as many weeds growing in there, and it also it gives it looks pretty right away, because a lot of the times that's what people want. They don't have the patience to let plants grow, so you can make it right away. You can have it look pretty by putting in something short-lived like a lot of our wildflower flowers. Okay. And so this is, a couple years later, I had gone from, those swoops of grass around to none. But I replaced most of the grass with the sunshine mimosa, but I started, the sunflower popped up on its own around the palm tree, and so that just became, just kind of pruned that a little bit to do the shrub around there. But you can kind of see that there's a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that you can group and do things. And I also, on the far side there where the Simpson stopper was really little there, I also planted some frog fruit. And over the years, that frog fruit spread into the mimosa, and the mimosa spread into the frog fruit. And I found that, at least in my yard, that has worked the best. Since they each have different time periods and different things, that way I can pretty much most of the year round have some sort of a greenery to have that lawn coverage. Let's see here. I also wanted to add up. So here's my again, a couple years after that, I had took this photograph, and everything had just, obviously didn't look like this year round. It was when everything was flowering in the fall, but just wanted everybody to kind of see that the layers of things. One thing I also do a lot of work for the ecosystem stuff and the climate things that all that stuff that's happening right now. And from there, I learned statistically that a neighborhood with a lot of different plants, trees, bushes, shrubs, even these, those things aren't very tall. They're what, a foot, some of them are a foot and a half tall. But just having all these plants in these layers can lower the temperature in the neighborhood 10 degrees. Just from, just because you're not having all that sun making direct contact on, whatever the mulch or the soil, and, the way we cut the grass very short in most lawns, there's not much shade happening there. So, let's see here. What have I forgotten? So the lowering of, by planting more plants, not only can you help your ecosystem, but you can lower your utility bill, and you can help lower your neighbor's utility bill, and we can have cleaner air, and not not only does pulling more of this excess carbon dioxide out of the air, help our the climate situation, but more directly for us, it makes our air cleaner. It's pulling pollution out of the air. So we can also lower things like asthma rates and things by bringing that down. So doing all this lagoon stuff helps the water. It also helps our air, which brings me back to the beginning where I said, I'm pretty much all focused on clean air and clean water. So these are just some of the resources. There's, of course, many out there, but probably most everybody's here is familiar with these, I'm guessing. I do have a couple of videos on the Brevard Indian River Lagoon Coalition, a photograph of me messing with the irrigation and whatnot. There's a few videos of me on there that they recorded doing a couple of those things. Remember that this Friday is Florida Arbor Day. So now might be a good time to encourage your friends and neighbors to consider putting in a tree, and then maybe next time putting some bushes around them and get them started in that direction. And then I also want to mention, as being involved with the Lagoon Coalition, that there's been a lot of push. I think MRC is probably has done a lot of work specifically on the policy for that, for the, I'm forgetting what's called. I wrote down LID, low impact development. Too many letters. So, I did tape a thing to the couple of things from there to the door right there, just in case you're interested. But part of that low impact development policy is helping to do, this little thing that I did in my yard. I'm trying to figure out where's the water going, how is it soaking in, where is there cement or concrete where it can't get through, all that sort of stuff. That would be making it more of a countywide or a citywide policy, so that when things are being put together, that they're planning for these things ahead of time and thinking all of those future aspects out and not just creating, driveways and patios and having all the water run down to a lagoon. I should mention, as I'm sorry, I'm probably running out here. I should mention, as I'm mentioning all this concrete and everything, concrete does affect the pH of your soil. I discovered that the hard way, where I had the driveway and the sidewalk going up to the front door, and I had a plant that just always had an off color on it. And I discovered that the pH was a huge part of it, that as, part of that alkalinity, does leach into the soil. And so just wanted to a little tip in a few other places that now where I've gone to plant for myself or helping somebody else, I'll go on to the native plant database and go in and look, and I'll look specifically to see, does it prefer, if it wants really acidic soil, I'm not planting it anywhere near concrete. So I think that's it. Do we open to questions, or how does that work? Does somebody walk around with a microphone, or does something? I saw a hand go up, but I can't hear anybody, so I was. Okay. Oh, that's actually an excellent question. I'll try to keep it down to less than 2 hours. So the home that I owned in Orlando, I was actually on the HOA board, and I got invited to take a class through the Seminole County Extension Office of Florida Friendly for HOA board members. So that really helped me a lot of having all of the information that I would need moving forward. The 1996 law for Florida Friendly, says the HOAs can't tell you that, you have to do something weird or crazy on their anybody want to walk around with this? That they can't say, like, the documents of the HOA I'm in now, the documents initially said everybody had to have 80% of their property had to be St. Augustine. And of course, that law had been passed before that organization was even created. So there's your baseline. But then when I moved out here, I knew some of the stories that I'd heard before. So I made sure to be very careful to go through all the documents, make sure I knew what the rules were for my specific homeowners association. And then I went to, you always want to go be within those rules. Anytime you're going outside of those rules, you're going to lose, right? So know what your rules are. I went to the board. I told them, the first thing I did, where I just did those little triangles, I went to the board and I said, I know I don't have to ask permission for this because I'm just putting in a couple of flower gardens, but this is what I'm doing. And here are the links that you can look at for Florida-friendly homeowners associations. Here's all the guidelines. Here's all the rules. And I gave them each a handout. I started out making sure that I was doing everything up front with that. There has been issues since then with different presidents and different things going on, but the most important thing is to know the Florida-friendly laws and rules. There's tons of stuff now on all this UFIFAS, their websites and everything. There's lots and lots of stuff on there. Know your HOA's rules and know those Florida-friendly laws and guidelines. That will really, really get you through avoiding as much heartache as possible. And I did a few years later, after I did those triangles, I came back to them with a design again where I had the graph paper and I designed out and explained to them exactly what I was going to do. And I got I wasn't planning initially on removing all of the grass from my yard, but the whole board was out on our front sidewalk looking at things, and my husband asked and they agreed to have us take out all the rest of the grass. I think there's people that are not happy with that, but that's what happened. I can.
And HOA is just a little system. If you're willing to abide by friendly principles, why can't we get on with the city government's ease up a little bit when their permit inspectors go out to see whether we've got sod or ground cover?
Well, actually, when I was working with an organization a few years ago, there was a requirement when you got a new dock or something that you had to replace. They had to replace it all with sod. I did work with Brevard County, with some of the people in the Natural Resources Department, and I got them to agree. You know, because they were like, oh yeah, we didn't realize that this is what it said, and so you absolutely can. You have to make sure you're talking to whomever, and make sure the people down the chain or up the chain or whatever know about it. But you absolutely can do Florida friendly, and you don't have to do sod. You just have to make sure that you might have to do a few extra phone calls. But that's actually one of my dreams is to have, since that law was passed in Florida in 1996, one of my dreams is to have that added into all of the general Florida rules and policies and standards on any that sort of thing, because I believe Florida friendly should be the baseline. Anything lower than that should not be allowed anywhere, as far as I'm concerned, because it's just basic. It's just basic good practices.
Sod is expedient for developers. We have locals just recently building a house, and they actually had a fight insisting they remove the sod because they weren't native. It sounds to me like they put on top of the section on sod.
Again, I would probably have, it would probably be, people like to do what, this is the way we've always done it. So people have to make a few extra phone calls and figure out, who does the inspections and who, maybe depending on who their boss is or whatever, for how these things work. But certainly, the bottom line is they don't want bare soil and everything just eroding and water rushing away. So in my experience, it can be, it certainly costs less, for sure, within a year's time, to put some sod or to put down some mulch and some native ground covers, spaced out properly, than it is to have to water and feed and mow a lawn in a year. So it's some discussions, and then obviously we have a lot more education that we need to work on.
Well, it sounds like at least Brevard County is aware that that's something that building inspectors
It depends who you're working with, and you may have to, like I said, you may have to make some extra phone calls, and because I know that there are a lot of things that are in writing is pretty vague. So my dream would be to put Florida friendly in ink on these things, but
phone calls.
that's who I've worked with in the past.
I want to encourage everyone to keep up the bar for the
Every suggestion can be submitted, no restriction on the number or what you say. And you get 3 minutes to say for the county commission. And the county commission is proud to write out every suggestion, and every suggestion will be either voted on or not. So let's all go as congregation, Native Plant Society, or homeowners, and put the suggestion together. And the voices will make it. Do you think that's the most effective solution to try to use? Because typically what I've seen is and so this is how most effective. So are there others where our voice to change this and that go around?
My experience has been that talking to homeowners and people who have some interest helps to spread the word, helps people understand and be able to see firsthand in order to get more people on board. But my experience with other volunteer things and policy sort of things, I believe that probably in Florida, we probably do need to have some sort of a statewide Florida-friendly minimum enacted somewhere in order to just make it easier for things to just be, this is the way we do it everywhere. I don't know. I mean, I know in the past that the Florida natives have tried to do stuff like that in the past, and got people that I spoke with, they got a little burnt out and frustrated with the uphill battle on that one. But that was years ago, and so I think the way things have shifted, I think we're coming to a point of having another opportunity. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's see if that comes out. That's supposed to look like that. Okay. So let's do the when John gets that slide up, it's for the whole year. It's all the ICAS seminars for this year. So take a picture of it. It'll be in the newsletter next month, but if I were you, I'd take a picture of it now. Oh, no, I guess not. Sorry.
If I may just say to, if you have a clipboard, please pass it around or hold it up and we can come get it. Because I know that it was asked about the Arbor Day, and I have one here, and we have a wonderful amount of people that are going to come, and it will be there as well. So I think we have a new idea that we would next month's meeting start with all our sign-up sheets on the table where we have that free stuff right in the lobby. So get ready for next month when you come in to stop and look at all those while you're having a brownie or something like that.
Don't look at me.
No, I'm just suggesting it because we hadn't talked about it, President. But I think that'd be a great way to kind of go and look
Thank
at
you.
it. If you need to sign up, that'd be a great chance right there.
Wow. The Pollinator Fest seems to be growing
Good.
leaps and bounds. That's awesome.
All right.
We needed a lot of. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Hold what?
Oh, here, I'll give you these.
Hold these. Okay.
Coldies, okay. Who's gonna pick? You gonna pick? You gonna pick, Sarah?
Where's the snack one?
Oh, the snack. Has
That's
it made
it?
it?